I don't stand side by side with nobody till I bleed with them first.
What did we just see? You probably think this world is a dream come true.
When I step into this ring, yeah, bro, I am addicted.
Don't sleep on Luca!
Maybe tomorrow we'll all wear 42.
If you fight for your dreams will fight for you.
On July 26, 2019, NF would release his fourth studio album, The Search. This album was a heart-wrencher and insightful to the mind of NF. Tracks like Change, My Stress, Nate, Time, Hate Myself, and Trauma dove deep into the years of trauma filled with pain, suffering, and heartbreak. There is so much to the story of NF, and that's what adds to this new album. I'm just going to say it now, if this is your first NF album, you aren't really going to get it. And this isn't me saying how only the Day One fans understand this album. What I mean is that this album will not be as impactful to those that don't know the story of NF. Hope is an album that is about exactly what it's named. Hope. Hope that no matter how difficult life can be, it can get better. So, to make it easier for those who haven't listened to his previous work and know his story, allow me to show you hope. NF hasn't exactly had the easiest life. As a child, his parents divorced, and from there, he had to deal with his mother's abusive boyfriend. In 2009, his mother would unfortunately pass away from an overdose. NF would turn to music, specifically rap, as his escape. He is a man of faith, but he doesn't want the label of being a Christian rapper. Put simply, while some of his music incorporates his faith, he doesn't want people to feel like they have to be of faith to listen to his music. He simply wants to make music about the things he's experienced and hope it can be a source of aid to any who hear. He's had his fair share of struggles, and he has always been detailed about it on his music. So, to hear the growth from those early records to this album is one that made me genuinely happy. NF started off with lead singles Hope and Motto. The moment I heard these songs, I was just happy that NF was tossing his name into the hat of artists who were prioritizing themselves. I have a future video that will go into full detail, but for now what I mean is that the 2020 decade is really shaping up to be a decade filled with music where the artists are prioritizing their own health, healing, and growth. Denzel Curry, Post Malone, Kendrick Lamar, and more have put out albums that were really for themselves, and NF is now on that list as well. Hope is our lead track, and one thing you'll learn about NF is that his music is very cinematic in a way. You will get a lot of songs like this where he's clearly painting a scene and many times showcasing a conversation between two characters. NF starts this song by saying, 30 years you've been dragging your feet, telling me I'm the reason we're stagnant. 30 years you've been claiming you're honest and promising progress. Well, where's it at? I don't want you to feel like a failure. I know this hurts, but I gave you your chance to deliver. Now it's my turn. Don't get me wrong, Nate. You've had a great run, but it's time to give the people something different. Many interpret this portion as Hope speaking directly to NF. While NF has been struggling with his pessimistic outlook on life, Hope has been patiently waiting for him to make progress towards a new outlook. Hope even tells him that he doesn't consider NF a failure. The albums from this period of his life were very successful, but it's time for newer pastures, both in life and in music. Before the first verse, you hear multiple voices exclaiming, "My album." To me, it signifies all the different emotions that want the spotlight. But as we hear, it's time for hope to take the place of sadness, fear, and trauma. And the first verse shows us exactly what hope is about. When asking about the definition of success, Hope clearly has a more positive outlook. To Hope, success isn't measured by numbers or physical accomplishments. Doing what the heart calls one to do, even if it's bold and deemed to be impossible. Standing on your morals and beliefs. Someone who passes on more money if it means they're able to produce something with genuine love and passion. Someone who can be in the darkest of times and still believe that there will be a bright side. Being able to take failures and use it as motivation rather than pity. And NF is already proving his success just from his growth alone. After all that, NF closes the verse by stating, I did things that I regret, I done said things I can't take back. Was a lost soul at a crossroad who had no hope, but I changed that. I spent years of my life holding on to things I should have never kept, full of hatred. Years of my life carrying a lot of baggage that I should have walked away from. Years of my life wishing I was someone different, looking for some validation. Years of my life trying to fill the void, pretending I was in. And it's here he's interrupted by a distorted voice stating, they get it. NF opens about his struggles, vulnerably stating about a lot of the stuff he's dealt with in life, like the mistakes he's made and wanting to appease people, only to be interrupted by his negative emotions, exclaiming they get it to try and make him feel bad for sharing, making it seem like he's just repeating himself and just burdening people with his problems. But that doesn't stop him, not anymore. He goes into full detail in the second verse about hitting rock bottom, how having a full mental breakdown and having a kid really woke him up to reality. He needed to heal from everything that was plaguing his life and face those demons head on. And things really break down in the final part of the song. He talks about how he made the changes for his son. He didn't want his son to experience the same issues he had with his parents. He mentions looking out the window waiting for dad. For NF, he had to deal with the divorce of his parents and abuse after, so the line comes off as him waiting for his dad to come save him from that situation, which we know he eventually did. In comparison with his son, he wants to be fully present. By that, he means emotionally and mentally. He will clearly be there physically for his son, but if he's not in the right state of mind, how can he ever truly be there for him? Along with that, he doesn't want to reach a point where his issues and trauma lead to him not being able to see his son. Along with this, NF speaks to his mom next and says he doesn't want his mom to be offended, but he doesn't want his son to think he's never enough. He clearly doesn't harbor any hate towards his mom. He just wants to do better after all those years he was neglected. The next couple of lines detail everything. 30 years of running, searching, pain, fear, anger, loneliness, hopelessness, sadness, darkness, torment, suffering, and pushing everyone away. This is everything he wants to move past. He no longer wants to be confined to only these feelings. He has hope that there is a light at the end of these 30 years, and the contrast is shown once again to close the song when the negative emotions try to stop him. The distorted voice is back, and they tell him he'll never evolve, he'll never be loved, and that he should give up because he doesn't have the strength to actually commit to change. But NF simply tells them he knows he can change. They're the ones that don't have the strength and faith that he does, and he will now be taking the reins. Speaking of taking the reins, the next single, Motto, sees NF essentially speak on his music making process. As he states in the beginning, I could write a record full of radio songs, do a bunch of features that my label would love, do a bunch of features that I don't even like just to build up the hype. NF is very meticulous when it comes to his music. Every song and album he creates serves a purpose. The way the albums are arranged, the way the music is put out, you can tell he cares deeply about every single detail and doesn't want to lose that level of passion and care for the sake of making money. He wants the song to carry its own weight and not become big because of a catchy verse or chorus or because some marketing scheme. Similarly, he's very careful with his features in both senses. He doesn't feature a lot on other songs and not many people have featured on his. Including this record, only 12 people have featured on an NF song. NF himself has only featured on 4 songs. As he expresses on this song, the label would like him to do and have more features, but he isn't going to do that at the expense of music. He's just not going to add somebody to the song. He's not going to have a feature just to have a big name on the track. If he feels they fit and can add to the song, then he will go and request it, but he's not going to adhere to any demands. Similarly, he adds that he could hire 50 people just to give him advice on the way he should write. But that wouldn't be genuine. It wouldn't be him. He especially doesn't need the advice considering he went from unknown to where he is today off his own merits and abilities. This track, like Hope and many others, show us the development NF has undergone. To new listeners, this song can come off as braggadocious, but really all it is NF finding his confidence. As he detailed on his song Nate, off the album The Search, he has struggled with the difference between confidence and arrogance before. NF is able to talk about his success because of how far he's come and yet still learning. He's not complacent and knows when growth needs to occur. As he says, he used to chase #1 hits and needed to hear his music was a hit before thinking to himself, but he has grown from this and this mindset. Continuing his talk about the music industry, he states in his second verse, this is the industry where it ain't how big you are, it's how big you seem, where people sacrifice the art trying to chase a dream. Then they wonder why their music's lacking creativity, would have gave anything to be respected by the artists I was listening to, but not no more, them days are history. The part I love about this verse the most is NF saying that he doesn't need any appraisal. Before, he looked up to these artists and wanted to be respected by them. But somewhere down the line, he learned that they'll likely never give him the respect, and that's okay. Their respect, their approval, doesn't matter to him. If he's putting out music that he loves, speaking about the things he wants to speak about, he'll continue to live by his standards and his beliefs. As he puts it, his motto is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I do find this line a bit funny though, because obviously in the context of the song, he's talking about not wanting to change the way he approaches music because it has brought him success. But at the same time, he is an artist who is always trying to change things up with every new release. For example, he was singing a whole lot more on this record. So basically, he'll experiment and switch things up, but not the overall philosophy of how he approaches his music. Now, there are a couple records on the track that I don't necessarily have a whole lot to say about, at least not on the level as the past two songs. They're great songs that I'm going to talk about now in clusters, just not to the extent as the previous two songs and the songs that are going to follow. This is to more so group these songs together on stuff I liked about them that they had in common, or briefly talk about a portion of one song that accomplished something well. Starting off with Careful, this song features Maryland rapper Corday. This song is all about NF and Corday discussing the success they've accomplished through their own risk-taking. As NF states, didn't get here being careful. The two men talk about all they've been able to do, but remind us it was their faith that got them here, taking risks and believing in their own abilities to get to this point. And even though they are successful, the money and success aren't even their top priority. As NF says, he shares the wealth because it's not like he takes it with him to the grave. A good, rare collaboration track from NF. Pandemonium is another track about NF and his place in the hip-hop world. It isn't a surprise that many times NF felt isolated from the hip-hop scene. They've always placed him in boxes he clearly didn't fit in. They've always had their criticisms and judgment about him. But to him, it never mattered. He just went and did it on his own. As he says on the track, got they noses up, I know why. Jealous of me cause the flow nice, did it all without a cosign. The phrase noses up is supposed to be an idiom for people who think they are better or too good for others. They look up as to not see or acknowledge the person in front of them. Maybe some artists feel threatened by NF's abilities and reach. Look back to 2019 when NF's The Search beat out Chance the Rapper's The Big Day for #1 despite Chance having more streams. NF was able to beat Chance through his physical album sales. His fan base was buying the album digitally, on CD, on vinyl, etc. And as he emphasizes, unlike many artists, he did it all without a cosign. Matter of fact, he did it all with quite the opposite. All these other artists and fan bases did was judge him, and yet each release has been a major success for him. As he said on Careful, if it doesn't go platinum, it'll go gold. As he continues here, he says, acknowledge me or not, that doesn't really make no difference to me. I operate the same no matter who's around me. They can continue to count him out, but he will always know what is best for him. Suffice sees NF talking about the music making process, specifically what his mindset is. As he says throughout the track, the music can't just be passable. He also has the same mindset when it comes to life. He wants to live his life fully and not be content with just fine. I think the weirdest but also funniest takeaway from this song is the reveal that a random woman once tried to claim she was pregnant with NF's child and even requested a DNA test from him. He obliged and then simply said, I could have told you that, when the test came back negative. Bullet is an amazing love letter from NF to his wife. As the name suggests, the whole point of the song is NF displaying his love to his wife, so much so that he would take a bullet for her. As he states throughout the song, she was the best thing to come into his life, and she has drastically improved his health. She's given him a beautiful child and all the support in the world. He would do absolutely anything for her, whether it's simply reassuring her that she's beautiful when she's feeling low, or doing the most to make her smile. He wants her to know he will always be there for her. Turn My Back is a track that sees NF put his abilities on full display. Whether it's the different flows or lyricism, NF is once again cementing his place in the music industry. Whatever criteria they try to give him, he'll fulfill it. NF lists a ton of artists on this song, but it's not to diss them. It's actually to show appreciation and respect to these artists and essentially throw his name into the circle. These are the artists he loves and respects and wants to be mentioned in the same vein as when discussing success. Nobody has to respect them, but the one thing they do have to accept is his success. Mistake is a song that sees NF confront his own doubts and judgment. The judgment in this case is from himself. Essentially, he's trying to come to terms with understanding that the mistakes he made doesn't necessarily make him a mistake. One of the best lines from the song is the lyric, if time heals, tell me why do I kill? We're always told time heals all wounds, but here NF is asking the same thing that many of us ask. Time passes, and yet we still feel the pain or guilt from our previous mistakes. At what point does that stop? He openly admits that he's made mistakes and that he's had his fair share of failures. The one thing he wants is to just not be labeled as and feel like a mistake. Let 'Em Pray is a fun song where NF turns his attention to his fans and haters. To his fans, he hypes them up by stating he's just getting started and hasn't even hit his peak yet. To his haters, he tells them to keep praying for his downfall. All it will do is drive him and his success. He will continue pushing forward no matter how much hate he gets. Because, at the end of the day, he makes music for himself and his fans. He also lets them know that they can continue praying on his downfall, but God won't answer such prayers anyway. With that being said, there are 4 songs left that I want to discuss fully. Some of the final 4 songs are amongst the best of the album, and some are the best at showcasing NF's overall growth from who he previously was. Starting off, Running is an introspective track that sees NF having a conversation with himself. Running is also the closing song on the album. Recently, along with the trend of healing, many artists have been using the final song as a sort of closing chapter. By this I mean, it's the track where they put it all out there before they move on. Paramore closed out their current chapter by getting all the frustration from previous years out before finally leaving it in the past. Kendrick Lamar, who NF mentioned in Turn My Back, closed out his album filled with topics of trauma, healing, and more with Mirror, a song that saw Kendrick Lamar finally put an end to being this public figure that everybody looks to in times of trouble, prioritizing his overall health. And here, NF looks at himself and decides it's time to move on from everything that has haunted him in the past. He talks about letting his pride go and learning to love himself again. He beautifully describes happiness as the sun coming up on the horizon. My favorite line comes from the chorus where NF states, "I love you to death, but I can't spend the rest of my life in this darkness. I'm done." NF has spent the majority of his music career shrouded in darkness. Literally, the man was always dressed in all black with the only hint of color coming from his Timbs. So, when Hope's music video dropped and he was in all white, it came as a shock. As we see here, he is telling fear that he is done being under its control. As he discusses in a song I would later discuss, NF for the longest time found comfort in his misery. So it makes sense that he's telling his fear and old self that he loves them. They were a part of him and played a pivotal role in his life and his career. But he knows he'll get nowhere in life if he continues to live in the abyss. He won't be able to grow and fulfill his roles in life if he continues to live in the darkness. He even states that he's given too much of his life up already. He is 32 and he can't afford to lose any more to this illness. Gone is a beautiful song that details the struggles of immaturity and maintaining a relationship. The song starts off with NF stating that he always looked at his cup as half empty, never full. As we've come to know, NF is once again struggling with his pessimistic mindset. To me, it also signifies how he was approaching the relationship in question. See, after this we get the line, "Didn't have a chance, but we were scared of letting things go." I view this as NF's pessimistic side was already making him think about how the relationship was going to end. Instead of looking at it as an opportunity to love and grow with another person, all he could focus on was the ending of it all. So when he looks at his glass, it being half empty signifies to him that time is running out. Instead of putting effort into the relationship, he almost in a sense gave up on it from the very beginning simply because his mind had already decided it was going to end one day. NF after this speaks about them having false hope for the situation, basically saying that all they ever did was lie to themselves that things were fine, and instead of just acknowledging the issues at hand. The one thing I love most about this song is that while it highlights immaturity, it also does a great job of demonstrating growth. See, NF goes on to finish the verse and continue into the chorus stating, "Gave it all we had, but guess our all wasn't enough. Wonder where you're at now, did you ever find the one? Hope you're out there somewhere happy, sometimes I think of you. And it makes me sad the way you left, but I'm glad you did. It was for the best. I pray someday you find yourself, somehow, some way with someone else. Don't wait, it's too late to keep holding on. Yeah, I'm already gone." To me, these lines show the maturity required to accept and move on from a failed relationship. There's no more false hope. There's no guilt trips, just pure acceptance. Mistakes were made, things could have been done differently, but it is all simply in the past now. He's able to openly speak about how he felt without making it seem like he's blaming the other person. And most importantly, instead of holding a grudge against himself or the other person, he just simply wishes that they are living well and have found love. And as he states, instead of holding on to the past, just accept the moment is now gone. Julia Michaels is featured on the song and shares the same sentiment as NF. Michaels states, I could blame us breaking up on being too young and being too dumb and being too caught up on past traumas, but the truth is we just weren't right. Instead of making excuses, she simply accepts that the relationship was never meant to last. We see this acceptance more when she expresses that she left because she knew staying would cause more harm. She would have pushed herself too hard to make things work and as a result end up hating love. And yet, like NF, she still closes her verse by saying she is happy for the other person and still thinks about them from time to time. The two of them aren't holding on to the past, and when that person comes to their mind, it's not thoughts of anger or regret. It's just a simple thought of, I hope they are doing as well in life as I am. Our penultimate song of discussion is one that I honestly wanted to review last. It is a song that has stuck with me the most lyrics that connect with and perfectly describe multiple moments in my life. A song that I have seen a plethora of people connect with, but I also know that it isn't the song that best exemplifies this album. So, Happy is our second to last song, and it is a song that details the difficulties people face after overcoming a long period of depression. One of the biggest differences in this song was just how much NF was singing. And it was one of the best creative decisions because the way he sings this song makes it much more emotional. The start of this song, the unease and genuine pain in his voice makes his opening plea that much more effective. NF opens the track stating, Dear God, please hear me out. I know it's been a couple years since I've reached out and said hello. I bet you're wondering why I keep obsessing on and stressing all the little things when I should be living life and soaking up all the memories. NF comes forward to God ashamed. As he states, it's been a while since he last came to talk to him. But time isn't the only thing he's ashamed of when coming to God. He's also ashamed that he's coming to God again, asking for help with the same struggles. Honestly, he is somewhat confused as well. As he says, he should be making all sorts of memories and living his best life, and yet here he is worrying about things out of his control. NF then states, I know I've been selfish. I have no excuse to give you, it's true. Again, NF in a sense feels ashamed and guilty for the way he feels. To him, there should be no excuse for him still dealing with these issues for all these years. How has he not solved any of these issues within all this time? Well, as he simply states, I don't know why, but I feel more comfortable living in my agony. A simple line, yet one that really sums up the struggle that a lot of people go through. They go through issues for so long, they deal with depression and dark times for so long that a life out of it just doesn't seem plausible or right. You see a lot of people revert back to those stages because it's the only sense of normality that they know. NF even states this at the end of the chorus when he says, the truth is I need help, but I just can't imagine who I'd be if I was happy. The rest of the chorus is beautiful as well, as NF talks about his struggles with pride and how it prevents him from asking for help. He also talks about his self-esteem and how he outright denies when he feels hurt to avoid looking weak. The second verse is all about the struggles that NF has, as he lists unaddressed issues, unpacked baggage, demons that need to be laid to rest, unforgotten trauma, avoided phone calls, disconnect with family, things he regrets saying, bridges that were once burned that he's not ready to rebuild, and insecurity. It's a lot to tackle, which makes things make all the more sense as to why he's taken so long to recover. It's not easy to tackle so many issues, especially quickly. In order to truly heal, these things require the proper time needed to assess and evaluate. But it is also partly on him, as he states after all this, I'll be the first to admit that I'm a lonely soul, and the last to admit I need a hand to hold. I think this line best summarizes the way a lot of people viewed NF and his music. He's quick to express his pain, but it never seemed like he was the type to actually receive help for it. Many can relate to this, but it can cause a division in perception. By this, I mean that some people will be unsympathetic and state that somebody can't be helped if they don't accept the help. While that statement has truth to it, this album shows us that it's not the easiest task. It can take somebody years to truly heal from past traumas. Sadly, many people will ignore these types of difficulties with mental illness and still expect people to simply get over it. To close the song, I enjoyed a small little detail NF adds. The song finishes with the chorus, but right before it, NF makes a small statement. He says, "Don't know what's around the bend, don't know what my future is, but I can't keep living in," and then he goes back into the chorus. It's a small addition, but it shows that NF is committed to change. The man who was once afraid of change now realizes that while his future is uncertain, he can at least make sure that things don't have to remain the same. Things may not be right now, but that doesn't mean it will always be that way. Our final song of review is one that closed the chapter to the past 5 albums of NF's journey. It's a song that closes the book on the one issue that has been here for NF throughout his entire life. It's a song that finally gives him closure and the ability to move forward in life. The song that best exemplifies NF's growth from the beginning until now. Mama is the 4th song on Hope. To many, that might not seem significant, but the song's placement has more meaning than you'd expect. As I stated in the beginning, knowing NF's journey enhances this album. On his second album, Therapy Session, the 4th track was How Could You Leave Us? An absolute gut punch of a song that sees NF at his lowest and angriest. Heartbroken, he cries out on this track about all the emotions he felt towards his mom. He asks her how she could have left them when they needed her, how the smell of cigarettes reminds him of her, how he felt he barely knew her, how it seemed she cared more about the pills than watching her children grow up. One of the most heartbreaking lines is him saying he has a picture of his mom, but it doesn't help when he needs the real thing. Along with that is him stating that he won't say he forgives her because he hasn't come to terms yet, even after all this time that has passed. He then goes on to state how angry he was at her funeral, how one of his last memories of her was her not liking his music, and simply stating that if she could hear him answer the question why. The outro of the song sees NF crying about the fact that his kids will never get to know his mom, and ending off by saying that she should have been here. It is a really emotional song and a difficult song to listen to. For years, this was NF's biggest struggle, and rightfully so. I don't think anybody would have blamed the guy if he went his whole life struggling with his emotions when it pertained to this tragic event. It's not something that can simply be healed. And yet, nearly 7 years later, on track 4, NF sings a different tune. To be completely honest, I originally wanted to break down this song and its many lyrics, but I just can't without crying. If there is any song to listen to on this album, it is this one. He begins the song asking his mom if she made it to heaven and if God is taking care of her now, if he's making her feel safe and loved. All he hopes is that she's happy and at peace up there. As he says on the chorus, he just hopes she isn't crying anymore. The second verse sees him be more understanding of his mom and the struggles she had. He is especially more understanding because he slowly realized just how similar he was to his mom when it came to the issues they both ended up struggling with. The most heart-wrenching line from this verse is when NF closes the verse by saying, "But know when I say that I love you, that I mean it, okay? 'Cause nobody's perfect, yeah, I guess we all fall short, and I can't hold this unforgiveness in my heart no more. So just know you're lovable to me, and of course, you'll always be mama to us, so save a table for 4. The line from the chorus that completely wrecks me every time as well is when he says, "I hope you're up there with God, feeling loved and set free from your pain." Put simply, it's all we hope for when anybody we love passes away. Similar to How Could You Leave Us, NF closes Mama with an outro. He basically says that if his mom was here today, there would be nothing but tears and apologies. He hopes his mom sees just how much he is healing and improving every day. He still has work to do, but he knows he can do it. So he simply hopes she's found peace like he has. she's found happiness like he has, and that she knows that he loves her.